Okay, let's get into my winter series wrap up, my spring series TBR. If you don't know, this is something I do quarterly. Every season, I decide, okay, let's look at what I've read and let's see if I've caught up and continued series that I care about and like what do I want to prioritize in the next season. So these are like my very flexible seasonal TBR videos essentially, and they're really good for me to be like, do I still care about this series anymore? What do I want to prioritize? It's just great for me. And you guys seem to like these videos, so win-win. Let's start first with the things that I have finished or caught up with in this winter season. So 2 I actually did in like 2021, so you guys already like know about them. And that's The Rook and the Rose I caught up in. So Red Liar's Not, of course. This is a Rook and Rose stan account. I love The Mask of Mirrors and The Liar's Not. They're different. Kind of, I think Liar's Not is slower paced than The Mask of Mirrors, but I love the characters so much, and that is consistent and just... I'm very excited about the 3rd book, which I know is finished, and I cannot wait. But yeah, if you want more of my thoughts or want a more coherent review, I do have a review of The Mask of Mirrors that I posted last year. I think it's still reasonable. It's weird when you like haven't watched one of your videos in like over a year, and it's like, is it still good? I think it probably is. But that has all of my thoughts, but like, it's great. If you have similar taste in fantasy to me, you should probably check it out. I also finished the Winnowing Flame series, so I have a should you read for that I will point you to, but this is a really fun adventure fantasy series, like really action-packed and cinematic, will have you on the edge of your seat. I'm not going to say it has the deepest character work I've ever read, but it has a really cool world, and I really did like rooting for these characters and like just seeing what would happen. It was definitely more of like a pure pleasure read experience and just like really wonderful, just adventure, escapist time. I also finished the Hyperion Cantos first duology. So I've read the entire Hyperion Cantos in the past, and I was rereading Hyperion in the fall, and so I finished up the first half, Fall of Hyperion, this winter, and I consider that a finished duology because if you've read the Cantos, all 4 books are in the same world, but the first 2 and the last 2 are very different in terms of writing, characters, tone, themes. Like, they're very different works, and they have different strengths and weaknesses. And this didn't really hold up for me. Like, I read it first in 2016, back when I was a newbie sci-fi reader, and I really appreciated some of the plot threading on my first read, and I still appreciated that on a second read, but I didn't get the reread fulfillment I expected because of all of these threads, and then I was just noticing some things that Dan Simmons focuses on as an author that I just don't love as a reader, and I'm just recognizing that about myself now, because now I am a very experienced sci-fi reader. So it was interesting to go back and see and read it, and I don't regret my time, but it definitely doesn't hold up quite as much for me. Like, I was actually really hoping that Hyperion would go from a 4 to a 5-star, and then Fall of Hyperion would have remained a 5-star, but instead, both books kind of took a half-star below where they were on my first read. But I also rate books differently now, so... It's a whole mess. I will put together a video on my thoughts on this classic sci-fi duology eventually. I was kind of just waiting to see if Ryan would want to join me because he's read it, but I think he's pretty ambivalent to this series, so it'll probably just be me. And so you can look out for that in the future once I get my thoughts together. So there's a lot of wind today, so if you're hearing that, just know that. But the next one that I finished, caught up with, was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, so I really like House of Earth and Blood. I just want people to know that I really like House of Earth and Blood. I have reread it. I've liked it both times. I liked it even more on the second time. Before the most recent book, really like Bryce, was my favorite main character written by Sarah J. Maas. And House of Sky and Breath just has all of the things that I don't typically like about Sarah J. Maas. Like, I don't think she's good at plotting things. Like, I think her ability to plot a story is average at best, and then this one was just all over the place. I did not enjoy my time. And then the stuff that I usually value in her works, like the things that I actually really like, which are character interactions, like the found family, the characters' inner thoughts as to how they deal with things, was just not as strong in this book. And I think part of that is because we spent too much time on the weird plot. And I don't know, normally she can handle romantic tension and sexual tension really well, or at least enjoyable for me, and this book was just like all over the place. So I don't dislike this book, but I'm hoping the next book redeems it, but I'm also really nervous because she has set up things that I don't know if I trust she can pull off, so we'll see. I mean, I'm willing to be proven wrong. I mean, I've definitely read other Sarah J. Maas books that I've liked less than this one, so it's just one of those things where I was disappointed because I really liked House of Earth and Blood. I was like really into this kind of like urban fantasy, paranormal romance thing. Like, I was into it. And now I'm just like, that was a very long, okay time. So those are the things I finished and caught up on. So let's go into things that I continued. The standards that have always been on this list. I have continued Malazan, so I read Midnight Tides. I have my spoiler vlog for that and an entire Malazan playlist for anyone who wants my thoughts. The first 2 books I have spoiler-free reviews for, but everything else has spoiler vlogs. So I have spoiler vlogs for the first 5 books and 2 spoiler-free reviews. I might do a spoiler-free review of the first 5 books so far. If you are interested in that, let me know. I haven't decided if that's like a thing people would be interested in. I've also continued Wheel of Time, and I did accomplish what I set out to do, and that's finish the slog. At least Stephanie tells me, she assures me we have finished the slog, which was Winter's Heart and Crossroads of Twilight. And I liked Winter's Heart. I thought it was fine. It was a good time. I don't have any negative feelings towards Winter's Heart. Crossroads of Twilight irks me. It just irks me, that book. Because it's too long, especially for how little things happen. It's, I think, one of the longer books in the slog. And also nothing happens. It's a lot. There's a reason why most people do not like this book in the slog. It's not because it does anything egregious. It's just because, but why? But the prologue is 3 hours, okay? So now we have New Spring and other stuff. Well, we'll talk about that when I talk about my spring TBR. But anyways, finished the slog in theory. I am actually going to wait till I've read the rest of Robert Jordan's works in Wheel of Time to make my next Wheel of Time experience so far video, because I do have one for the first 6 books, spoiler-free, where I just talk about what's been working for me, what hasn't, etc. And I've also continued the Resonance trilogy, which is an indie-published sci-fi adventure series that I've been reading by Casey Berger. I've read the first 2 now. And the second book had some, middle book syndrome for me, mainly because the first book was really engaging and mysterious and action-packed and very edge of my seat, and I loved meeting these characters in this world for the first time. And the second book was understandably slower, because it was more about the fallout of book 1 and figuring out where are we going, and it was meant to be a quieter story. So I think I just wasn't prepared for that. But I'm curious to see where the third book will go. But I did like the second book, just not quite as much as I liked the first one because of the change in focus and pace, which just does tend to happen with rebellion stories, which this one definitely is. And that's why sometimes rebellion stories are hit or miss for me. It reminds me how the pacing changes dramatically from Mistborn to Well of Ascension. And similarly, when I first read Well of Ascension, I did not like it as much because of that pacing difference, which, if you know now, Well of Ascension is one of my favorite books, so on reread, I'll probably like the second book in this series more. And now we have a whole bunch of stuff that have started. And some I've had more than one book in, the first one I'll talk about is Queens of Renthia, which I love. This is a series by Sarah Beth Durst. It is just a really fun fantasy. It has all of my fantasy tropes. I read the first 2 books via audio. I'm excited to get to the third one. I just have a couple more audiobook obligations, then I'm listening to Queen of Sorrow. But this is so fun. It's about a forest community. There are spirits, and the spirits create but also have this tendency to destroy, so you need this queen of the land to keep them in check, and we basically follow different rulings of queens, or we're basically figuring out how do we keep this in check, but there's other games afoot, and there's just really fun takes on the chosen one and found family and royalty. I don't know, I'm just having a blast with it. They're short, they're fun, I'm engaged, I love the character work. It's just a really fun fantasy escapist time with pretty good medium stakes. I really enjoy it. So once I finish it, I will make a should you read. So just have your eye out for that once I do finish the series. Next up, we've got Murderbot, which I've only read the first one, but I should by the end of the week you're seeing this video have started, if not finished, the second one. And I was really happy that I actually liked the first one. I wasn't sure where I would fall because in my friend circle, there are people that love it, and then there are people who are like, this is way overhyped, why do people love this? And I'm on the side of this performed exactly what it meant to do in the first book. I was like, oh, your project was this, and you accomplished that, and I felt this. It was great. I read it in one day. It was the first book I read this year. Wonderful way to start the year. No one is more relatable to me than Murderbot. That's just how it is. For the next one, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time this month, you probably know I've been reading the Chorus of Dragons series by Jen Lyon, so I've read Ruin of Kings. I'm in the middle of The Name of All Things, and I'm loving it. I thought about making a spoiler-free review for Ruin of Kings, but I think I'm just going to do a series review because I'm pretty much just reading these all back to back. But if you have anything that you would like review-wise for this series, I guess let me know, but I'm loving it, okay? It's I haven't been so excited to read a modern fantasy release in a very long time. I get so much joy opening the hardbacks, and they have this wonderful art at the top of each chapter, and the audiobooks are so good. I'm having a blast being confused and just listening to this chaotic, fun adventure story with all of these moving parts. But at the same time, it has a great humor and delivery for me and my tastes. I'm just having fun. So that's one that I've read the first book and a half of. And I've also started the Side Changeling series, which I think is a 15 or 16 book series for the first set. I don't know how many books are in this world. Don't come to me for any information about this series, but I read the first book in this like paranormal romance series. I don't know if paranormal is the right word because it's like a sci-fi romance thing, but as shapeshifters. I don't know. It's fun. I really like it because the world is like a world set up by Octavia Butler, like what I read in the Pattern Master series, but we put like a romance plot on top. And it's really fun. I'm having a really good time. So when I need that, this is a series I'm going to, because I think I just was desperately searching for something to fill the void that was traditionally filled by Sarah J. Maas, but she has been letting me down, as you heard earlier in this video. So that was a fun thing I started. Now the rest of these are things I started, and I don't know when I will continue or if I will continue them, because I had basically mixed experiences in their first books and series. So we'll start with Malice, The Faithful and the Fallen. I have a review for this where I lay out pros and cons, my mixed thoughts back and forth. I just really had such an average to underwhelming time with this book. And I know, he gets better, he improves, but I'm also just worried that maybe I just am not connected enough to the characters, and since that is such a driving force for me in reading fantasy, if that'll work. Like, it's not like Jen Williams' Winnowing Flame series where, sure, I loved the characters, but maybe they're not my favorite characters of all time, but I really enjoyed watching them. That's not really the case with Malice. I actually think one of the characters who's supposed to be an adult is incredibly childish. Like, I haven't liked the characterization I've seen, even though currently in Malice, like 3 or 4 years have passed. So I'm worried about that. I am a little bit intrigued about some of the tropes that we're subverting and like the general plot, and I kind of want to get to the parts in the series that people always get excited about, but I'm wondering if those parts will even land for me, because a lot of people said they loved the ending of Malice, and I was like actually underwhelmed to angry about the ending of Malice. So I'm not sure. I still want to give the second book a chance, but with like things like A Chorus of Dragons, which I'm loving, I just have not been reaching for. You know, you only have so much time to pick up really long fantasy books, and that's just not where I've been gravitating towards. And none of the audiobooks for Faithful and the Fallen are at my library, and they're not in Scribd. And so I can't even like go my normal route for how I will consume media if I'm unsure of it. So don't know what to do there. Another one is Starlight's Shadow. So first book was a sci-fi romance, and I don't know when the next book will be out, so like I'm currently caught up, but I don't know when the next one comes out if I'll pick it up, because I liked the romance parts of this book. They played into my tropes really well, but I didn't like the plot. I was really bored with the plot. I just did not care. I'm like, can we get back to when they're in a room by themselves, or like there's tension everywhere, like, because it's an incredibly slow burn, like not a lot happens on page for a long time. And yeah, the plot wasn't it for me, which happens to me a lot with sci-fi romance. Like, I don't know. But, so I don't know if the next book comes out, if I'll pick it up. Another one that I don't think I'm going to continue. We'll see. I'm waiting to hear from Judith when she reads the series, but this is Empire of Ratk. So the first one is Ancillary Justice, which I wanted to love this book. I should have loved this book. This book has Angela written all over it in terms of confusing world-building execution, the thematic density, like the character execution is actually incredibly well done. Everything about it is objectively well accomplished, but I just could not care. And that's horrible. Part of it is I had a lack of character connection, but also it's kind of like a revenge plot, and like I don't find those intriguing. Those aren't interesting. So if I don't have the characters helping me flip the page, I didn't have like an intriguing plot to follow. And the world building was interesting, but also not so interesting that like I was just consumed by learning about the world. We have a Space Sirens book club where we talk spoiler-free at the beginning. If you want to hear some of my thoughts and thoughts of people who liked the book and things like that, I just struggled. I don't think I'm going to continue on. I think also I read a short story by Anne Leckie in The Mystic Dream, and it was one of those stories where I was like, oh, this is good, but I didn't like connect to it or like it. So I think it's just me and this author's writing style. We're just not going to be friends. So that's the wrap-up of all of the things that I've read. And now for the quick TBR, of course, the normal things that I put on my list. Malazan, book 6. Want to get to the Bone Hunters. Wheel of Time, I'm just doing New Spring. Treating myself to a short Wheel of Time this season. need a little break. And I believe this is publication order, where New Spring came out after Crossroads of Twilight. So that's what I've been doing. I don't know if there's a right way. I just trust publication order. You know, I know it's a prequel. I know it has Moraine in it. You know, that's what I know. I'm going to finish out the Resonance trilogy. I want to read that. I've been wanting to read it for a while, but I just been very mood reading in March, so it just hasn't hit my mood, but I do want to prioritize that. And then, like I mentioned previously, I want to read Queen of Sorrows and Queens of Renthia. We're knocking that out. I'm so excited to get to it. Similarly, so excited to finish out the entirety of Chorus of Dragons. The 5th book comes out in April, and I plan to read books, well, I'm finishing book 2 in March, and books 3 and 4 in April, and book 5 in May. That's my current plan. I am so excited. I also plan to kind of continue the Middle Game series, but also read like the novella series in that. So I want to read the novella Middle Grade. There's 2 books in that. I have the images on the screen. And then I want to reread Middle Game, and then I want to read Seasonal Fears, because that's the next book coming out in that series this spring. I want to get to more Murderbot, and bare minimum, the 2nd book, but I think I would like to get to the 2nd and 3rd novella, and I would like to read a side Changeling book. I think that'd be fun to have another one for if I'm feeling in the romance mood. If I'm not, I'm not going to pick it up. But currently I'd like to get to it because I also like to listen to Mara's podcast on it, and so like that's kind of like an incentive there. And another one that was on my last season's TBR, but I didn't get to, is The Undertakers. I'm still interested in reading this book, so I would like to get to it. It's on my Kindle. So those are things that I'm continuing, or like rereading, you know, in series. Worlds that I have been in before, and here are a list of new worlds that I'm going into. I'm, I guess, starting 2 of Octavia Butler's series this spring. I'm going to be starting the Xenogenesis series with Dawn in May, and also Parable of the Sower in May. 2 of them for 2 different book club obligations. So I would like to actually, and I think actually I'm going to be finishing Parable of the Sowers, the complete, I think it's Earthseed duology. I'm finishing both books in that for a book club obligation. And I would like to read the entire Xenogenesis series if that happens, if that's in the cards. But for sure starting both of those by Octavia Butler, which is great, because honestly, if I could read her entire backlist this year, I'd be stoked. Like, I have a short story collection, and then there's Fledgling, and then I think I've read everything, which would be cool. I also want to get to Robin Hobb. It has been a minute, and it's primarily because I want to read Robin Hobb why it's so hard for me to continue or think of continuing things like Malice, because I would rather read Robin Hobb. And so Fool's Errand, I think, needs to start this spring, because I didn't get to Robin Hobb in the winter, and it makes me sad. So I think I need to do that. And with not having as much Wheel of Time this season, I think that'll work. Because that was another thing, is I had 2 chonky Wheel of Time books for winter, and that just took away some of my reading time. So Fool's Errand going in there. Another one that I have to start because of a book club obligation, but also I'm just like really excited and want to get like on the hype train because the last book's coming out, and that's The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I read The Paper Menagerie earlier this year. Loved it, so I can't wait for that. And then the last one that I think I'd like to get to, if I can, if not, it easily can be a summer read, and that's Lachlan's. This is the 3rd book in the Foundry Side trilogy, and I have an arc, so I'd like to read it, and I could read it this spring before it comes out near the end of June, and like have a review of the whole series. You know, that sounds great to me. We'll see if it happens, if my mood is there, because he's generally my like action movie palate cleanser fantasy author for me. Like, I really like his magic systems and the banter between his characters. Just another fun cinematic time. So that is the current state of my series TBR. I always plan for these videos to be shorter than they are, but I guess I was a little long-winded today. Hopefully the wind wasn't too concerning. If you want to leave an emoji, leave a forest for Queens of Renthia, because, like, guys, I cannot believe I waited so long to pick it up. Or you can leave a dragon for Chorus of Dragons. I'll take either or, but those are the series that I am most pumped about right this moment. And let me know any series you plan to continue this coming season, what you finished in winter, and like if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.